West Branch football is back, Matt. The West Branch that a lot of people like to see, that are used to seeing, high scoring games and things that we'll just say fans expect it unrealistically all the time. And they're spoiled, I think, a little bit all the time. Well,
yes, we are.
To that degree we are. But to get it back a little bit on Friday felt good. So let's talk a little bit about that. Let's dive right in on the Talking Bear Football podcast.
Right here on West Branch Football.
Presented by the Browns West Branch family of dealerships. 52-0 was the final. And last week, Matt, you got to go first, so I'm going to kick it to Steven this week. And Steven, 52-0. Now, I thought West Branch would win. I really did. I just didn't see it to this degree of, both sides of the ball dominating. How about you?
I would have to agree. I mean, we had talked about it in the beginning of the year. This is Mac Valley team that's kind of young. We went up there last year and they lost several of their key pieces they had. And so we knew they were going to kind of be looking for some pieces, but they do have some of those components there. And I thought that it was going to be a closer game than this. I'm like you. I agree. I thought we were going to win this one, but I think it was just one of those that the way that game started, special teams get a 90, whatever it was, yard kickoff return for a touchdown to start the game. And that just kind of perks up our sideline and it kind of deflates the home sideline. And then the defense gets a 3 and out, and then they shank the punt. I mean, it was like a 7-yard punt or something. And so suddenly we've got a short field. And it was just one of those that felt like some of those areas that we had struggled with in the first 2 weeks went our way and allowed us to really establish that momentum on our side. And we never really did anything to allow Maquoketa Valley to stem that tide. I mean, even if they did have 1 or 2 big plays, we came right back. I mean, I think Mac Valley had a 55 or whatever yard kickoff return into our territory. First play, Cash Woody hits the ball, forces the fumble, we get it right back. So it was just one of those where it felt like the game snowballed in our advantage, and Mac Valley just couldn't figure out a way to get that to stop. And so, I mean, you feel bad for them, but credit our guys for being focused and just taking care of business from that first whistle.
And Matt, Steven talked about how I didn't give them a chance. Now, I'll say this. In the first quarter, West Branch had just gone up 14-0 after follow the aforementioned Cash Woody forced fumble to go up 14-0, go again on a 3 and out, get a punt, and then fumble the punt return. And Maquoketa Valley recovers that in West Branch territory. You think all of a sudden, all right, maybe the Wildcats, the home crowd, is getting a little bit of excitement in their belly.
Not this time.
Not this time.
Not so fast, my friend.
Not so fast, my friend. Yeah, that's exactly right, Jason. That was kind of the moment to where you thought, okay, this could be a little bit of a game here, something for the Wildcats to do here. But no, the West Branch defense just did what they've done all year and just buckled down and stopped them and got the ball back. And in fact, it was the very next play after that muff punt return that Cash Woody forced a fumble, and Logan Wright, I think it was, recovered it to give the ball right back to the Bears. So, in the end, no harm, no foul. But, for the game as a whole, I thought it was just a really good confidence booster for this team. And it was a game that the players just had a lot of fun with. And I think that's something that we haven't seen. We didn't see much the first 2 weeks was that team out there having fun. Now, I saw glimpses of fun like that in the scrimmage against Tipton, where the defense was dominating there. But just right from that opening kickoff, that just set the mood for the whole evening for this team, and they carried it through all the way for 3.5 quarters before the majority of the starters were out. Just to kind of highlight a couple guys, probably some obvious ones here, but Andy Henson, a phenomenal game. And he just reminded us what he can do when he's given that chance to get to that second level, just running over guys, using his speed, And it's just his agility, I think, is something that's unique for him and his size. The way that he can just kind of make smooth cuts to get an extra 10, 15 yards on every play just to try and kind of outrun that would-be tackler. And then Carver Belk. I thought he's been looking more and more confident every game and every practice that we've seen him. That long touchdown throw that he had to Peyton Miller really, honestly, was the best throw I've seen him make all season. And I hope that's a harbinger for him, moving forward. In addition, he had that triple option keeper in the second quarter that he ran for 15 yards or so. Just a really nice read and just a quick decision making. He didn't think about it. He saw the hole. He hit it, made some moves downfield to set up a 1st and goal for the Bears, and the Bears scored the next play. So, just seemed like some quicker decision making from him that led to really some positive plays.
And that's funny you bring his name up. In our game capsule that was released on Thursday morning, and if you didn't know that on westbranch.football, you can catch up with all the news of West Branch football, obviously. But every Thursday we release a game capsule. One of the keys mentioned was Carver Belk will play a big role in this football game if the Bears want to be successful on offense. Not just because he's the quarterback, but, the maturation process is continuing. Well, he took a big step forward. But 52-0 was the final, Matt. How did we get there?
Yeah, so first quarter, Peyton Miller, first play of the game, 89-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. Kenneth Belk received the kick and then did a reverse with Peyton. In the post-game interview that the Bearcast did with Peyton mentioned that it was a play that he and Kenneth have been practicing for quite a while, and they finally got to do it. And, it worked out, especially with some excellent downfield blocking. If you watch the end zone view of that play, Peyton said in the post-game, but he had multiple avenues and holes to choose from once he kind of got through the mess there. He did. And he chose a good one, and off to the races he went to put the Bears up 7-0. Still in the first quarter, Bears go up 14-0 on a Wyatt Federland 13-yard touchdown run. And he also made that PAT, so 2 for 2 so far for him. And Stephen, I think as you mentioned too, that touchdown was set up by that, kind of off the side of the foot, Amundo punt that gave the Bears the ball at the Mac Valley 25 or so. So excellent field position there, and the Bears make quick do of that. Still in the first quarter, Peyton Miller gets into the end zone again, this time on a rush for a 5-yard rushing touchdown. The first play after that muff punt return by the Bears, Cash Woody forced that fumble, as we talked about, to give the ball back to West Branch, and then a 54-yard run from Andy Henson gave the Bears 1st and goal at the 5. Carver Belk hands it off to Peyton Miller and makes it 21-0 on that 5-yard run. Still in the first quarter, Andy Henson, a real nice 13-yard rushing touchdown, kind of went towards the right side of the line, cut it back right there in the second level to the left side into the end zone. Really nice run there. So 28-0. We stand at the end of the first quarter. Second quarter, Peyton Miller gets his 3rd touchdown of the game, this time receiving. After a 15-yard passing catch to Brady Hunger on 3rd down, there was that triple option keeper that I mentioned by Belk that set the Bears up inside the 5. Belk then finds Miller on a simple wide receiver screen, who basically just walked right into the end zone. 35-0 West Branch. Still in the second quarter, Peyton Miller again, his 2nd touchdown reception of the game. Just that really nice throw that I mentioned earlier from Carver Belk. Finds Peyton Miller on a simple wheel route. Allowed Peyton to kind of get behind, kind of in a soft spot in the zone, and Carver threw a beautiful ball. 42-0 at half. Third quarter, Andy Henson, a 30-yard touchdown run. And that was just a couple plays after Brady Hunger forced a fumble on the opening kickoff of that second half. So again, the Bears just kind of taking advantage of those opportunities that they were given. Final score of the night was in the third quarter. Wyatt Federland nails a 34-yard field goal. Probably would have been good from maybe 45 or so. 52-0 West Branch at that point, and that's how we ended.
How about Matt takes a break, Stephen?
Yep. I was just going to say, Matt, you talk about the wheel route that got him into the soft spot of the zone. That was a beautiful play design by Coach Hirschman, because they were running, I think it was a cover 3, and they had the outside guys running post routes, and it sucked the safeties over, and the corner was kind of looking underneath a little bit, and that just Peyton was just all alone by himself. And so I think they had run it on the first play and just missed on it, and I think they came right back to it thinking, hey, that's a good opportunity, and nice strike right there from Carver, and Peyton did the rest.
And when you think about it, let's go with some trivia. You know me, I'm not a big trivia guy, but I'm going to throw one out there for you. Peyton Miller now has 4 touchdowns in his high school career. How many of those have happened outside of Delhi, if you're paying attention?
0.
Well,
0.
all 4 of them happened on Friday night.
Peyton Miller has scored one other time in his career. Where would that happen, boys?
Maybe Delhi.
Delhi. Can you tell me what it was?
Must have been a fresh off game.
It was not. It was in varsity. It was not a field goal. It was not
Did
a
he score
touchdown.
2-point conversion?
He scored a 2-point conversion in 2020. A tipped ball, caught it. That was his only score as a varsity football player before Friday night. And oddly enough, it was his birthday on Thursday. So he celebrated a day late with, 4 touchdowns in 3 different ways. Some other notable stats that kind of jump out at you guys. Steven, how about you first?
Well, I mean, Andy Henson getting going and getting over 200 yards rushing, that was big for this team. And I think that was kind of the focus of Coach Hirschman, especially, most of the night we're lining up double tight I formation, and it's just, hey, we're going to grind it out between the tackles. And that offensive line did a good job. Andy made some good reads. The tight ends especially. You look, Jackson Kaleberg made the switch a couple weeks ago. Reese Trepagna made the switch this week. So some new guys in there, but they're stepping in and doing well. And then the guys that got in at receiver, it was Peyton a lot of the night, but some other guys rotated in there, making some key blocks too. So, it was a good team offensive effort all around. I think the other thing was did a lot better job of just kind of cleaning up some of the penalties. Second week we weren't too bad on it, but still Friday night didn't seem too bad. So a lot more focus from these guys, and definitely going to need that moving forward.
Matt, anything for you?
Yeah, Steven, you mentioned Jackson Kaleberg. I thought he did a phenomenal job Friday. Nothing terribly flashy. He had 6 tackles on defense, which is pretty good. But from the offensive perspective, I thought he played really well from his tight end position and made a lot of good blocks. He just kind of the energy and the physicality that he has out there on the field. I think just one of those, those guys that they're not going to get their name in the paper, so to speak. But he's a kind of a critical part to this team. And then also Wyatt Federline. What can you say? 7 for 7 on his PATs, really none of them in doubt, and 1 for 1 on a 34-yard field goal. So great job by Wyatt. Love the interview that Jared did with him after at the end of the game on the Bearcast. So
I'd love to be around next time Kale makes it back home to see who the better kicker really is, because I can already see him licking his chops saying, let's go, son. We're going to line it up. You tell me which field we're going to, and we're going to have a kicking contest. So
Here's the thing. He can say, hey, great, you kicked. I also had a touchdown, brother. I scored 16 points the other night. 7 XPs, 1 field goal, and 1 touchdown. For me, I had 2 things that stood out. I marked it in my mind because I thought, you know what, the defense is doing what the defense has done all year. I just wanted to see what the final numbers were going to be. Final number, giving up only 79 yards of total offense to the Wildcats. 34 of it came on one play at the 5:36 mark as I looked at the clock in the second quarter. Matt, do some quick math. 79 minus 34 is 45?
Yes.
So
carry the 1, divide by 7. Yes, that checks.
So take away 8 seconds. So look at basically for 47 minutes and 50 seconds, the Bears gave up 45 yards. That's less than 1 yard per minute in a high school football game. That's another pretty impressive thing, and to do so on the road is even more impressive. And of course, the other thing that stood out to me, it's small, and people probably forgot about it. As the game was already at hand, the Bears offense was out doing, The Fresh-Off was getting the opportunity to play. They had to punt. Andy Henson had been cold, probably standing on the sideline for 10 minutes, got asked to go out and punt. All he does is drop a nice 40-yard punt that was downed at about the 5-yard line. His punting has been, we won't call it Tory Taylor-like in Parlance, Iowa, because that guy's a Heisman Trophy winner right now in my book. But he's been when the Bears need a punt, need to place it, he's done very well this year, placing punts to give that defense a little bit more cushion to work with, and the offense a little less open air to work with. So,
well, and speaking of the defense, that under I took for the over under of 127.5 points allowed this season's looking pretty good so far. 23 through 3 weeks.
And here you thought I was dropping things, getting good at dropping things, man. Just ho hum. That's a good stat. I'm okay with that stat.
I've got a little sheet here in our document where we're tracking our over-under categories, and yeah, that one's looking real nice.
I'm definitely okay with that stat. Again, the most important stat, Matt and Steven, the Bears went 1-0, and 52-0 was the final. This week we'll begin district play. Now, districts week 4. So the next 5 weeks are going to settle things out for the postseason in Class 1A, beginning next week for West Branch against Louisa Muscatine. Before we get into that, Matt, what happened last week, District 5, Class 1A?
Yeah, so a lot of good non-district matchups going on here. So Durant and Northeast Goose Lake. Northeast Goose Lake prevails in that one, 42-28. So kind of a surpriser there, and Durant starting 0-3. I don't think anyone saw that.
Here's what you didn't see. Steven, what were those statistics we were talking about earlier in that game?
Durant had 250 rushing yards from Nolan DeLong. And they had, I don't have it pulled up anymore, but almost 200 passing yards. And they still lost by 2 touchdowns, partly because they threw 4 interceptions.
Just some interesting. You have nearly 500 yards of total offense and lose by 2 touchdowns. That's just a strange stat, but turnovers. Just ask the Iowa State Cyclones. Matt, moving on.
Minneapolis against West Burlington. Meepo prevailed in that one, 35-7. So I believe that they are at 3-0 to start the season.
Clean sheet.
As well. Yep, they are 3-0. Regina and Mid Prairie. Mid Prairie actually had to forfeit that one due to COVID and injuries. So Regina technically wins that one 1-0, and they are 3-0 to start the season. L&M, who we're going to talk about here coming up, they took on Van Buren, and Van Buren won that one 57-12. And then finally, Wilton and Highland. Wilton won that one 39-14 to open their season 3-0. So, Meepo, Regina, Wilton all at 3-0, West Branch at 2-1, Durant and L&M at 0-3 as we head into district play.
Much respect. I mean, of all the win-loss records that you heard, which one stands out to you the most?
I think Durant and Wilton. I honestly, just from what I saw last year, I would have flipped those. And that's not a disrespect to Wilton at all. It's just, again, they had a really young team last year. And looking at what Durant was bringing back, if you had to make me guess, I would have said if one was 3-0, one was 0-3, I would have pegged Durant at 3-0. But yeah, that's just goes to show you that you don't play these games on paper. You got to be ready to step out on the field every time you go. So,
well, before next week though, everybody's now 0-0 as it pertains to the postseason considerations.
EMS Detergent Services has been providing janitorial supplies to businesses across the Midwest for over 50 years. Based in North Liberty, EMS uses products made right here in Iowa and offers exceptional and affordable services for their clients. Learn more at emsdetergentservices.com. Julie and Dan Hayes at EMS Detergent Services, proud supporters of the West Branch Bears.
Louisa Muscatine. The Falcons, is that right, gentlemen? Of Let's, Iowa. Let's play in West Branch, though. Military Appreciation Night. And Stephen will probably tell you a little bit more about that as we get towards the end of our program. But the Falcons have had a slow start to their season, but they're hoping to speed things up as we get into week 4. Historically, these two teams, the last time they played was in 1997.
God, those guys are old that played in that game.
You know, kidding. Final score, West Branch 56, Louisa Muscatine 10. 96, well, before that, West Branch the year before, Inlet's final score, Bears 50-12 over the home Falcons. Stephen, just for fun, off the top of your head, I mean, I'm not saying you will or not know or whatever. Do you remember anything from those battles in the late 90s at all? By reading articles, of course.
Of course, I do remember the game in West Branch my senior year. I was actually on the field when we gave up the only touchdown that game. So now that
So it was your
I'm thinking
fault.
back on it, yes. Situation was, it was one of those 40-ish yard line, and they had a 4th down, so we send the punt return team out, and I was the nose guard on the punt return, and they decided to keep their defense or keep their offense out there. So we just slide into a 5-3 defense, and they ran a toss sweep to the outside, and I shucked my guy on the center and then hit an angle and got to the corner, and I touched the guy as he ran into the end zone. I almost had the angle. I just wasn't quite fast enough to save the touchdown. So
Alibi Ike.
I was there, just missed it. We gave up the touchdown. Other than that, I don't remember. I know that the bus ride to L&M is the middle of nowhere, so next year we'll be excited because you're just driving on country roads and, oh, hey, there's a school. Okay.
Fast forward back to 2021, week 4, very important game for both teams. You don't want to start your district slate off on the wrong foot by losing. How is L&M up to this point, as you mentioned, 0-3? How have they gotten to that point against who?
Week 1 they lost 6-9 at Columbus. Week 2 they lost 45-0 against Wapello, and then in week 3, just this past Friday, they lost 57-12 to Van Buren. So, not the best start for the Falcons.
A quick look at their stats, and Stephen, I know you've probably looked at it as well. Looking at the one of the more interesting things I've seen through 3 games, they've thrown 42 passes and they have 45 rushes. 42 passes by 4 different players. Now that could be a product of the fact they're down. Some younger kids are getting the opportunity to play, but 4 different guys, and they're all underclassmen. Briar Reynolds, 9 of 15, a junior. Xander Bieri, 9 of 19, a junior. Then you throw in sophomores Ty Northrup and Finnegan Klein, who have 3 for 5 and 2 for 3 respectively. So 23 of 42, not a bad percentage, but unfortunately it's not showing up on the scoreboard or at the end of the game in the win column.
Yeah, and interestingly, that's just 2 games because they don't have their stats from Friday night posted yet. So I'll be curious because based on the little bit of film that I've seen, it looked like Runnels was in there a majority of the time. So I'm curious if some of that was just last week against Wapello. Maybe they threw some different guys in there. I don't know. Or maybe it's some trickeration. Maybe they've got some different plays. But it is some interesting balance when you look 42 rushes, 45 or 42 passes, 45 rushes. So definitely going to keep you on your toes. You can't say, hey, we're just going to stack it in and try to shut down the run, or we're going to drop off into a soft zone and make you beat us with the pass. So they try to keep it honest. It's just, unfortunately, you look at that in those first 2 games, 1.8 yards per rush, 10.3 yards per completion. So they're just not finding the yards in big chunks that you would like to see if you're trying to keep that sort of balance.
And rushing the ball, too, we didn't even get into that as far as who's carrying the ball. Take away one player of the through 2 games of the 8 kids who have carried the ball. Again, every single one of them underclassmen. So this is a very young football team, similar to West Branch. They have a very small senior group of seniors out for their team in Letts, just like West Branch only has 7 seniors in its squad this year at when you see them at the Little Rose Bowl next week, Matt. So, what's your key? When you look at this, you look at the stats, throw that stuff all away. What is going to be a big thing for you, given that it's been nearly a calendar year since West Branch has won a home football game?
Yeah, the main thing that I'm going to be watching is the West Branch offensive line versus this L&M defensive line. From the film that I've watched, they've mostly run a 3-4 defense. And just with those three up front, number 78, Fordyce, number 44, Nowak, and number 70, Kessel, those three up front just seem to cause a lot of chaos at the line of scrimmage. And, they're not getting their names in the paper, so to speak, with tackles and sacks and pass deflections and that type of thing. But just kind of in general, they've been very disruptive to cause the offense, whoever they're playing, to kind of go off script, so to speak. And I hope for, the West Branch offensive line that they can keep these three guys contained, give Carver enough time, give Andy, plenty of holes to get to that second level where he does the most of his damage. That's what I'm going to be watching.
Yeah, I too am looking forward to seeing they can continue with that progression, with that momentum that they built last Friday on the road for the home crowd next Friday night in West Branch. Nothing more than, quote unquote, being able to ring the victory bell, but doing so at the Little Rose Bowl. Again, something they have not done since August 28th, the first week of the season in 2020. Now, a few games were moved. A few games, the Bears had to manipulate the schedule a little bit and work things out to be able to find a game that was canceled. And field conditions and things played a role as well. But it has been over a year since the Bears have won a game in West Branch. It's time to end that streak, and hopefully they can do so Friday. But you know what? There's nothing guaranteed. But one thing that is guaranteed is insurance. If you're in need, if you need help, let's hear from the Fullwider Insurance Agency.
Have you reviewed your insurance lately? Contact the Fullwider Insurance Agency to set up a free insurance review of your policies. We offer personal, commercial, life, health, and crop insurance to protect all aspects of your life. As trusted choice independent agents, we can work with multiple companies to find the best coverages at the most competitive prices. Call 643-2695 to speak to one of our agents. Supporting the West Branch Bears for over 50 years, the Fullwider Agency, where your insurance is our assurance.
Now, Steven, a.k.a. the nice guy of the podcast, looks like you're first up this week in Picks to Click. Matt, last week, everybody clicked because the Bears won, but just in case we forgot, which I have, who we all chose as our pick to click, you can remind us now.
Well, it doesn't really matter because I chose Wyatt Fetterland, so I think we're
winner chicken dinner.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
I mean, Jason, to be fair, your guy had an interception and some pretty good defense too. Holden Arneman,
yes.
And Steven, you had Kennick Belk.
And he was on the winning team.
Right.
He was.
And he played nicely as well as a fullback and a safety. So.
And funny we bring this up as far as, Matt, yeah, statistically speaking, you probably got the dub, as the kids would say. No cap. No kizzy. So the funny thing is, Peyton Miller said, yeah, guess you picked me a couple weeks late, huh? And then Brady Hunger says, you picked me last week. Look what happened this week. Both of them made mention of the picks to click. Like, well, I'm glad they both clicked, because if they're clicking, the Bears are clicking and the Bears are winning, and we all win. And it makes everybody happy. So, and if you recall last week, we did have someone write in or text in their pick to click. Do you recall, Matt, as I sent that to you?
We're supposed to read messages from you?
No. In case you let your kids read it instead. I don't
have kids.
Former Bear coach Kevin Crossweight sent his pick to click in.
Yeah, he said, just listen to the podcast and you guys are spot on. My pick this week is Andy Henson.
That's a good answer.
There it is. Good answer.
200-yard rushing night. Big night defensively. some good
Coach
things.
Crossway, if you're listening, Bears won last week. You made a good pick to click. Might want to send another one in. Through 3 weeks, I think, we'll let Matt be ahead 1-0. Stephen, let him have his cake.
I don't know, man. I mean, I picked Brady Hunger last week, and he had a pretty damn good game. So, I mean,
We're all 2-1.
yeah,
We're all 2-1.
We're all 2-1 because the Bears are 2-1.
All right, the webmaster has spoken. And speak up now, Stephen, with your pick to click.
I'm gonna go another one of my. I mean, this is kind of my trend this year, but it's because I like those big guys up front. I'm gonna go with Logan Wright. I think defensively he's gonna make some noise, especially going against some of those big bodies that L&M has. Offensively, he's gonna do some good things and help pay for the way for that offense to have another productive night. So, Logan Wright, sophomore lineman, both sides of the ball.
My pick to click this week is Logan Wright. I think he's going to have a great week. And
Yeah, I'll take him too.
Logan Wright. All right, good. That's the right choice. Actually, I mean, 2 things this week, 2 picks. One is I'll pick one of the players because that's what we usually do. I'm going to say Drake Berry in the same light of the explanation that Stephen gave. My backup pick, and really is going to steal the show, is Dave McElrath, for all the work he's doing behind the scenes to make for the Veterans Appreciation Night this upcoming week. All the things that you'll see in the pregame, you're going to want to get there early, is mostly attributed, if not all, completely attributed to the hard work that he's doing behind the scenes.
I'm going to go with Logan Wright and Drake Berry. I think those two are...
Logan Berry and Drake Wright.
Right, yes. Logan Berry. That's my final answer. Let's see. I think I've used my one-timer on Andy.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did in week 2. This is tough. I took Wyatt last week. He'd probably be a good pick again.
Ride him.
I'm going to do that.
I've done that before. Yep, I've done it before where was it a year or two ago, Matt, where I took one guy like 5 weeks in a row. Bears were winning. I wasn't going to change. It's like Forrest Gump. I won this far. Might as well keep going.
Yeah, I like the physicality and energy that he brings, and I think he's got some confidence with his leg now. Not that he didn't before, but he's got it now after that game Friday, and it was nice to see him to get involved with the offense as well.
Picks to click. Feel free to kick yours in if you'd like. As we wrap things up here in the next 5 or 10 minutes, Stephen, Matt had his long spiel early in the segment. Now it's your turn. Tell folks how they can keep up with all things West Branch football.
Of course, social media on the internet when you go online. Twitter, Instagram, just follow at WB Bears Football. For those of you that don't know any of that, just ask the kids. They'll help you find it. You know what to do. If you're on Facebook, just go into the search bar and type West Branch Football, and you can find the page, like it, follow it, make sure that you get all the updates and notifications, because we get a whole host of videos that are posted up there. Highlights from the game. Matt normally gets done, depending on what he's got going on, Friday night, Saturday sometime. Interviews throughout the week. Any other updates that we have. So find all of that stuff there. Of course, if you like watching those videos, you can just go to our YouTube channel and subscribe to West Branch Football, and those get posted there, and you can follow them. If you like listening to us blather on, we're sorry. But you can find ways to share it with your friends. Go to whatever podcast listener your choice is, the app of your choice, and just search for Talkin' Bear Football, follow along, and like I said, share it. Let friends know about it, and have them listening to us. We don't get paid any extra for it, but, they might want to learn some more about West Branch football. So send them there, have them search for Talkin' Bear Football.
And a big thank you, Matt could be able to tell you a few more sponsors' names than I can. But we want to say thank you to all of our sponsors, because all those things that Stephen just mentioned, the places, locations on that interweb thing, would not be possible without donations and just the support of each one of our sponsors, Matt.
Yeah, that's Browns West Branch, Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, and Ram, Browns West Branch Ford, Cornerstone Real Estate Consultants, EMS Detergent Services, Fidelity Bank and Trust, the Full Wider Insurance Agency, Hodge Construction, Hoover Presidential Foundation, Main Street Suites, Marcy Villier with Urban Acres, Touched by Power, and the West Branch Times.
And this week, 7 o'clock kickoff. But we make sure you want to show up early. As I mentioned before, Dave McElrath, among others, but mostly Dave, has done a lot of work to put a nice presentation out of respect and thanks for our servicemen and women. So show up early. Stephen, what are some of the things that usually go into that?
It's going to be great. They're going to have couple hundred flags that will line around the field. They're going to try to have kids be able to get down there and help hold those. They will be announcing any veterans that are in attendance and hoping to get a list of that so we can announce them over the PA. A lot of times they've got the parachuters that bring the game ball in and try to recognize a local veteran to receive that game ball. I remember a couple years ago, it was pretty special when Dalen Peterson was able to give it to his grandfather, Tom, who played for West Branch and also served in the military. So just very special memories for the people that are involved in that, and just a great way to say thank you to our servicemen and women, those that made that sacrifice to go and serve us and help protect our freedoms. Especially, I mean, we're recording this on September 12th, a day after the 20th anniversary of 9/11, and just remembering that, you know, we are all Americans and we love this country, and these people are sacrificing so much of their time and so many other things to be able to help keep us safe. And so this is just a great way for us to say thank you so very much for everything that you've done, and it's greatly appreciated. And this is just a very, 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 very small token of that appreciation, even though it is a lot of stuff that Dave McElrath does to make it happen.
And you won't be able to see it live, obviously, but if you're listening, Bearcast pregame beginning at 6:30 on Friday with Stephen, Mike Quinlan, and the coach, Jared Tiley, on the mic on the sidelines. You won't be able to see it, but Matt, in his wonderful wisdom and incredible abilities with all that technical stuff, you'll be able to hear things as they're going on live. You'll be able to hear the crowd's reaction. You'll be able to hear the PA announcer talking about what is actually happening live, and you'll hear the crowd's reaction when the skydivers hit the field. It's just a different sound than when, say, Andy Henson scores a touchdown. There's just a different sound, a little different emotion that comes out in that moment. So make sure, if you can't make it to the game, try to get on with the Bearcast beginning at 6:30. That has been the Talking Bear Football Podcast.
Right here on westbranch.football.
Presented by the Browns West Branch family of dealerships.
Take care, everyone.